5.NF.3. This standard for fractions has to do with interpreting a fraction as a division problem. Now, the key feature here is really the division symbol itself. When you really zoom in, you look at it, that line in the division symbol itself is very similar to a fraction line with the numerator and the denominator. And when you start to look at it that way, you start to see that division is very similar to what a fraction is. So if we look at this first example, 3 whole pies divided by 4 people. Well, how much pie will each person get is the question here. So you have 3 pies, and you're dividing it by 4 people because you want to know how much one person is going to get. Okay? You want to know how much per one person. Now, if you take 3 and you divide it by 4, which is what this standard is trying to get across, is 3 divided by 4 is going to give you, if you divide those two numbers, 0.75. That's 0.75 is, it kind of sounds like 75 cents. Or it could also be 75 hundredths. But 75 hundredths, if you really look at that fraction, can be simplified down if you divide both by 25 to 3 out of 4. See? So what that tells me is that 3/4 of a pie is going to go to one person. So this example is a very simple one, but it can show you how the words that you use to describe the results of a problem can get a little confusing. So let's look at the second example. 4 families, they share 5 pies. Well, notice how I put 5 pies on top. Because the context of the question has to do with how much pie will each family get per family. For one family, how much pie will they get? So you have 5 pies split between, divided by 4 families, because you want to know for one family, how much pie will there be? So you take 5 and you divide it by 4. 5 divided by 4. If you divide these two numbers, 5 in the house, 4 as the divisor, 4 goes into 5 ones, and you divide it out and you end up with 1.25. Well, that's 1 and 25 hundredths, or 1 and 1/4 of a pie per family. So again, NF3 is more about recognizing that a fraction is very similar to division, and you can interpret word problems through this connection between fractions and division. The last thing I want to get across here, because that really is the basic idea of the standard, is as you start to play with these different fractions, you're going to be introduced to an idea that if you have 1/3 or 2/3 or 3/3, you're working within the boundaries of one whole pie. But the moment you get more than one whole pie, if you get another third, then you have that one whole pie plus 1/3. Or you have 5/3, which is one whole pie and 2/3. The moment you get 6/3, you have 2 whole pies, because you have the 1 pie and then you get those 3 out of 3 that make a new whole. So this idea of a number over itself is the same as one whole, that's going to start to play a role here as you look at different contexts and word problems. 7/3 is really 2 1/3, because if you and one of the reasons why I'm showing you this is if you look at 3 divided by 3, What is 3 divided by 3? Well, that's 1. And what's 6 divided by 3? Well, that's 2. And what's 9 divided by 3? Of course, that's 3. And so this idea that fractions, interpreted as division, can help you make sense of word problems. If you look at 5 divided by 3, you're going to end up with 5 divided by 3. 3 goes into 5 once, with 2 left over. You have to add the decimal and the 0, bring down the decimal, bring down the 0. 3 goes into 20, here's a decimal there, 6 times. That gives you 2 left over. You bring down another 0, and then that will give you another 6. And you can see how 1.66 is going to, the 6 is going to repeat. Well, 1.66 with a line over it here, that is going to equal 1 2/3, which is this. Okay? So this particular aspect of the standard is not specifically addressed in the standard text. But as you start to play with interpreting a fraction as division, you're going to end up exploring how fractions can be interpreted as division for the sake of interpreting word problems that may require certain contexts and certain language to be used in order to explain what a number as an answer means in the context of a problem. And that's it for 5.NF.3.